I welcome you to the Franciscan Garden here at the Catholic community of St. Francis of Assisi. A year ago, this area looked very different. A year ago, there were several 90 feet tall pine trees right here. And the whole area around here was fairly rustic. We let it grow naturally. We had a little problem though with those pine trees I was just telling you about. They were starting to lean towards Clare Hall. And the rooms you see in front of us are where some of our preschool children go to their classes during the academic year. We had an arborist to come out and look at all of this, and it was his opinion that we needed to do something soon with regard to the pine trees because there was a danger that they could tip in wind or a storm and could damage the building severely, or worse, injure children in school if they happened to be there at that time. And so we took the trees out for safety precautions, and then we were left with this big space, and the question became, well, what do we do with this? And so the idea was generated that it might be a good thing to create a garden here. With the growth of the columbarium a little further over this way, some of our parents were losing space for them to socialize before and after school. And so we thought this would be a great place for the parents to have a chance to actually gather with their children, both before and after school. It would be a place where people could come and rest, could pray, could be in conversation, could socialize. Its location between Clare Hall, Fellowship Hall, our Founders Room Hall, our church, this would be an ideal place for people to be able to gather for breaks, for pauses in programming, after Mass, before Mass, other social events. And so we thought this would be an ideal location to gather people. And so the Franciscan Garden was created. Through the beautiful work of Greg Mason, our landscaper here in the parish, we had this magnificent place to gather anytime we want to. The other idea that came to us was there was a need for us to do some education about the Franciscans whose names are associated with our buildings and our rooms on our campus. What I've learned since being here as the pastor is that we have a very strong connection to our Franciscan identity, something that's really critical. But what I've also learned is that we have a lot to learn about the people whose names are associated with our buildings. And so the idea struck us that there might be a value in creating an educational component to this garden. And so with that in mind, we began to do some exploration. And a couple of ideas struck us as being really worthwhile, and I want to share those with you now. First, we decided we need an image of St. Clare over on this side of the property. This is Clare Hall, and yet very few people actually know who St. Clare is. And so as you can see over my shoulder, we have a place here in the alcove between where our classrooms are going and where these two pergolas, where a mosaic is already being envisioned for placement. And so we're going to put a mosaic here of St. Clare. It's a beautiful, beautiful mosaic. I hope that you will come to enjoy it as much as I'm already beginning to enjoy the possibility of it being here. Around the corner, over near the entrance to the preschool, we're going to have an image, a bronze, of St. Francis sitting on a log. So he'll be down nice and low. He'll have a lamb at his feet. He'll be holding a bird in his hand, kind of that classic image we have of St. Francis. But what I really like about this is that next to St. Francis, there'll be a space on the log where you could actually sit down next to St. Francis. So I'm envisioning having all of our children coming over and wanting to sit next to St. Francis, having a photo opportunity with St. Francis, and also learning, because there'll be a plaque behind St. Francis describing who he is, why he's important, and why he's part of our community's identity. In addition to that, we thought it would be important to have the other names associated with our property here to be also given some opportunities for education. So, for example, our preschool is named Elizabeth Hall, after Princess Elizabeth of Hungary. Jacoba is our cafeteria. She's a very important person in the history of Francis's life. St. Anthony of Padua, we all know that name, St. Anthony of Padua, but most of us associate him with things like, well, I pray to him when I need to find something that's lost. But I've discovered that a lot of people don't know he's a Franciscan, and he's a very important one as well. And so we're going to be putting some boulders here that will have bronze plaques on the front of them, and on that plaque there'll be a picture, a face of the saint or the person who's a Franciscan, date of birth, date of death, and a brief biography describing who this person is. And so we're going to adorn the garden all across the edges here with these boulders that will have these plaques on them. My hope is that the children who come to our campus can incorporate into their year opportunities to come out here and learn who these people are so that they can make the connection to the buildings on our campus. This will also be an opportunity for the adults of our community and the youth of our community to likewise come out here and learn more about the heritage that is part of our identity as the Catholic community of St. Francis. There will be an opportunity for you to help us with this project. We are going to be starting a campaign to raise money for this art. And I hope that many of you will participate in this and help us so that we can create this garden that will have lasting beauty and lasting meaning for all of us here at the Catholic community of St. Francis of Assisi. We will be providing you with more information soon, but I do hope that you will join us in making this dream a reality. May God bless you.